Did you know that the holy wars of the Middle Ages, the Crusades, were the unlikely birthplace of modern banking? It sounds crazy, but it's true. A military order of monks, the Knights Templar, went from protecting pilgrims to becoming Europe's first multinational bankers. How did sword-wielding knights end up inventing financial tools we still use today? Let's dive into the fascinating story of how war, faith, and a whole lot of gold changed the world forever. Imagine you're a knight in the 12th century. The Pope has called for a crusade, and you've sworn an oath to travel thousands of miles to the Holy Land. But you have a huge problem. Your wealth is in land, livestock, and maybe some gold coins. How do you carry all that on a dangerous journey? Bandits are everywhere. Shipwrecks are common. Carrying a chest full of gold is like painting a target on your back. This is where the Knights Templar had their genius idea. Originally founded to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, the Templars quickly realized that the biggest danger wasn't just bandits on the road, it was the financial risk of the journey itself. So they created a system that was revolutionary for its time. A nobleman in London could deposit his gold and valuables at the local Templar preceptory, their fortified headquarters. In return, he wouldn't get a heavy bag of coins, but a simple piece of parchment, a letter of credit. This letter, encoded with a cipher known only to the Templars, was essentially worthless to a thief. But when the nobleman arrived in Jerusalem, he could present this letter at the Templar headquarters there. After verifying his identity in the code, the Templars would give him the equivalent value of his deposit in local currency. Sound familiar? It was the medieval version of a traveler's check or an international wire transfer. For the first time, wealth could be moved across vast distances securely and efficiently. This system was a game changer. It wasn't just for individual knights. Kings and nobles used the Templars to finance entire armies. Moving massive amounts of money to pay, feed, and equip soldiers on the other side of the continent was a logistical nightmare. The Templars solved it. Their network of preceptories, stretching from Scotland to Syria, acted like a chain of modern bank branches. They became the go-to financial institution for the Crusades, managing the flow of capital that fueled the holy wars for nearly 2 centuries. But their services didn't stop there. The Templars' headquarters, especially the Temple in London and Paris, became fortified treasuries. They were trusted more than royal vaults. While kings were often in debt and might be tempted to seize private assets, the Templars, as a religious order, were seen as untouchable and impartial. Nobles, merchants, and even the Pope stored their wealth with the Templars for safekeeping. They offered secure depository services, essentially becoming the medieval world's most trusted safety deposit box. From safekeeping, it was a short step to lending. With vast amounts of capital deposited with them, the Templars began to issue loans. They provided funds to cash-strapped monarchs to wage wars, to nobles to manage their estates, and to merchants to fund trading ventures. While the church officially forbade usury, charging interest on loans, the Templars found clever workarounds. They would structure loans as rental agreements or charge fees for administrative costs, effectively creating a profitable lending business. Their wealth and financial power grew exponentially. The Templars became so powerful that they essentially ran the economies of several nations. They managed the English treasury, collected taxes for the Pope, and acted as financial advisors to the most powerful people in Europe. Their success was built on 3 pillars: security, a vast international network, and most importantly, trust. Everyone believed their money was safe with the Knights Templar. The economic impact of the Crusades and the Templar banking system was profound. The wars themselves were incredibly expensive, which forced a shift away from the old feudal system. Before, wealth was tied to land, but the Crusades required liquid cash, gold and silver. This stimulated trade, created new markets, and pushed Europe towards a more dynamic, cash-based economy. The Italian city-states like Venice and Genoa also grew rich by financing and transporting crusaders, further developing their own sophisticated banking practices that would later lead to the Renaissance. The Templars' innovations laid the very foundation for the banking systems we recognize today. The concept of transferring credit, establishing international branches, securing deposits, and providing large-scale loans, all of this was pioneered by a group of warrior monks. They demonstrated that a centralized, trusted institution could facilitate economic activity on an unprecedented scale. So, what happened to them? Well, their success was also their downfall. By the early 14th century, the Templars were unimaginably wealthy and powerful, independent of any king, and answering only to the Pope. King Philip VI of France was deeply in debt to the order and saw them as a threat to his own power. He coveted their wealth and plotted their destruction. In a coordinated move on Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date some say is the origin of the unlucky, Friday the 13th myth, Philip had Templars all across France arrested. They were tortured into confessing to all sorts of fabricated charges. The accusations of greed, heresy, and secret rituals were a smokescreen for what was essentially the largest and most ruthless asset seizure in history. Under pressure from the French king, the Pope eventually disbanded the order in 1312. Although the Knights Templar were destroyed, their financial innovations lived on. The systems they created were too valuable to disappear. Other banking families and institutions, like the Medici in Italy, picked up where the Templars left off, refining and expanding their methods. The idea that wealth could be more than just a pile of gold, that it could be a fluid concept represented by credit and trust, had taken root. So the next time you use a debit card, make a wire transfer, or even just put money in a bank, remember the Knights Templar. These medieval warriors, in their quest to fund a holy war, accidentally built the blueprint for our modern financial world. Their story is a powerful reminder that history is full of surprises, and that the origins of the things we take for granted are often far stranger and more fascinating than we could ever imagine. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as interesting as I did, please hit that like button, and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. Let me know in the comments what other historical topics you'd like to see covered. See you next time.